Discourse analysis. The word discourse is usually defined as language beyond the sentence, and the analysis of discourse is typically concerned with the study of language in text and conversation. Interpreting discourse. Interpreting discourse is a way to make sense of language that has ungrammatical forms. Cohesion is a part of interpreting discourse. Cohesion means the sentence or the conversation connect to each other, but it doesn't make sense. For example, A said, "I like boys with dark hair and brown eyes." B replied, "My dog has brown eyes and long tail." A and B connect in words brown eyes, but it doesn't make sense. Next is coherence. Coherence means the sentence or the conversation don't connect to each other, but it makes sense. For example, A said, "Touch the telephone." B replied, "I'm in the bed." A, okay. A and B have no connection, but A understood that B cannot answer the telephone because B is still in the bed. And the last is speech events. Speech events are all social activities in which language is an important role. Next is conversation analysis. Conversation analysis is a study of the thought that humans produce. Typically, there is only one speaker at a time, and when another participant tries to talk, one of them usually stops. And then turn taking. Turn taking is a setting where participants take a turn to speak during conversation and discourse. There are two types of turn taking. They are rudeness and shyness. Rudeness is when one speaker cuts in on another speaker, and shyness is when one speaker keeps waiting to take a turn.
Then, the cooperative principle. The cooperative principle is an underlying assumption in most conversation exchange seems to be that the participants are cooperating with each other. There are four principles, which are the quantity maxim. It means make contribution as informative as required, but not more or less. Then the quality maxim suggests that we aren't taking full responsibility for the truth of what we say. Next, the relation maxim. Our statements are relevant to the conversation. And last, the manner maxim. The statement that we say must be clear, brief, and orderly. Hedges. Hedges is a type of expression to show that we are concerned about following the making while being cooperative participant in conversation. Hedges also defined as word or phrase to indicate that we are not really sure what we are saying. We can use kind of or sort of. We also take care to indicate that we report is something we think or feel, is possible or likely, and may or could happen. Hence, the difference between saying Jackson is guilty, and I think it's possible that Jackson may be guilty. In the first version, we will assume that have very good evidence for the statement. Here are the examples. His hair was kind of long. It means that we don't really sure that his hair was long. And second, it's sort of difficult to say. And the last example are this is possibly the best performance in the Olympic.
And the next is implicature. It happens when the speaker implying something that is not said. For example, Dina, are you going to the party tomorrow? Putri, I have to accompany my mother. And based on it, the speaker Putri's statement is not answer Dina's question. Putri don't say yes or no. Given that Putri's original answer contains relevant information, Tina can work out that accompany her mother tomorrow conventionally involves accompany my mother, and accompany my mother precludes party tomorrow. Thus, Putri's answer is not simply a statement about tomorrow's activities. It contains an implicator, an additional conferent meaning concerning tomorrow's activities. Then, background knowledge, the interpretation that we create in our minds of what we read and hear based on our knowledge. Example, Dino was on his way to airport last week. We can interpret it in our mind based on our culture that Donnie about going to airport, and no reader has ever suggested that Donnie is swimming or on a boat. Then schemas and script. Schemas is a general term for a conventional knowledge structure that exists in memory. When we said what a school classroom is like, or a classroom schema, as we try to make sense for it, we have many schemas or schemata that are used in the interpretation of what we experience and what we hear or read about. Then script, similar in many ways to a schema, or you can call it dynamic schema. A script is a series of conventional action that take place. You have a script for going to the dentist and another script for going to the movies. We all have version of and eating in a restaurant script which we can activate to make sense of the short text. Example, trying not to be out of the office for long. Susie went into the nearest place, sat down and ordered an avocado sandwich. It was quite crowded, but the service was fast, so she left a good tip. Back in the office, things were not going well. On the basis of our restaurant script, you will be able to say a number of things about the scan and even briefly describe in this short text. We will assume that Susie opened the door to get into the restaurant, that there were tables there, that she ate sandwich, that she paid for it, and so on. It is also a good indication of the fact that our understanding of what we read doesn't come directly from what words and sentences on the page, but in the interpretation we create in our mind of what we read. Conclusion, clearly our understanding of what we read is not only based on what we see on the page, like language structure, but also on other things that we have in mind, like knowledge structure. To understand more about the connection between these two things, we have to take a close look at the workings of the human brain.